Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, you can watch BC's party leaders square off on the big election issues in a televised debate. BC NDP leader David Eby, BC Green Party leader Sonia Furstenau, and BC Conservative leader John Rustad will also try to stand out to you, the voter. So what are you wanting to hear tonight? Are you an undecided voter at this point? What would change your mind? After 12:30, disability issues. Are they getting enough attention in this election? What would you want to put in the spotlight? Call us after 12:30. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. The leaders of the three major provincial political parties, well, today they are preparing for the televised debate tonight, and you can watch it at 6:30 p.m. on all CBC platforms. And with the provincial Conservative and NDP parties being virtually tied in the polling overall, all three leaders are hoping to reach you, the voter, and especially those undecided voters. So what are you hoping to hear during the televised debate? Are you still undecided at this point? And what would sway you? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email us, bctoday@cbc.ca. I'm joined now by Stuart Prest, political scientist at the University of British Columbia. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. What are you going to be watching for tonight?
It's a good question. I'm going to be looking for a couple of different things. I'm going to be looking for how the leaders balance their time between attacking their opposition, trying to contrast between themselves and their opponent, but also introducing themselves and their platforms to British Columbians. For many voters, this is their chance to hear the different sides that they can choose between. And for Mr. Eby and Mr. Rustad in particular, the stakes are high given that they are balanced on a knife edge in the polls. And also, this is the first time that either one has led a major party into a debate like this.
Right. Good point. And, you talk about how much they're going to balance their time between personal attacks. We've had a lot of the barbs online and in the radio debate as well.
That's right. We really saw if you like, a spicy debate on the radio where Mr. Eby in particular really seemed most comfortable prosecuting a case against Mr. Rustad, talking about the ways in which he and his candidates are outside the mainstream of BC politics and their views on things like vaccines and their approaches to drug addictions and treatment and so on. So there's a real attempt to contrast. And I think at a certain point, while it's important to draw those contrasts, there's always a danger that you don't build your own case and you don't build your own rapport with voters.
So what about the audience? What is it typically that they're looking for when they watch a debate?
I think different voters look for different things. There's not one right way to watch a debate. Some will have a bingo card and they're right into it and the competition of it. They're watching it almost like they are cheering for their team and they're rooting for their side to win. But for the undecided voters who are just really now tuning into the election, they may be looking for the specific policies that matter to them most. What's in this for me? And for some voters as well, they are looking to get a measure of the three leaders on offer here and to decide who among these leaders can I trust. It's that sense of personal connection that is so important in contemporary politics.
What do you think the leaders need to do then to be able to stand out and show that these are the policies or try to convince the public about their policies on the various issues?
I think it is, again, that balancing between making the case for their own leadership and their own party, but also finding ways to get in those jobs, to draw those contrasts and not losing track of either one of those projects. And that's always going to be a tough act.
We have been in other elections watching various debates, particularly in the United States. Is there a cue perhaps that people may take, that politicians, that the debaters tonight might take, or the public may take? I have watched all of them front to back.
There is always a possibility that the unexpected will happen. This
Yeah.
is live TV. It's a little bit like a sporting event where we don't know what's going to happen until the players, if you like, hit the field. And so that dynamic element as well, that it is somewhat combative, it is adversarial. These can make for unpredictable moments that no one can expect coming into the debate, but come to define the debate. And whether that's George H.W. Bush looking at his watch and seeming like he doesn't want to be in the debate, that seems like that changed the presidential election. And in 1992 in the United States, those kinds of little moments can stand out. And of course, we have seen much more spectacular debates and outcomes.
Animated, shall we say? Yeah.
Animated. There's questions about fact checking and so on. So we will have, I think, a minor key version of that. I don't expect to see the level of fireworks that we saw in the United States in either of those presidential debates.
Okay, let's bring it back to BC here. We are asking you ahead of the BC election debate tonight, the televised debate starting at 6:30 among David Eby, Sonia Furstenau, and John Rustad. What are you wanting to hear? What kind of debate are you looking for? And are you still undecided at this point? Let us know about that and what your mindset is right now. What would sway your vote? Call us now, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Carol is joining us from Salmon Arm. Hi, Carol. What are you going to be looking for tonight?
Well, what I'm looking for is for someone to address the ICBC issues in this province. I was in a car accident 2 years ago. Unfortunately, once the no fault was put in, it's been nothing but a pain for me. I suffered a brain injury along with physical injuries. And what the most difficult part of it is ICBC itself doesn't know what the rules are yet. So you're hanging in this balance, and it needs to be eliminated. We need to have competition, and so I'm looking for the party that's going to give that, and that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, Carol, thank you very much. Now, what we have heard from the BC Conservatives is that they would open up basic insurance, basic auto insurance to competition, and in a way, and bring back the ability to sue, essentially, to litigate a case in which there is severe injury. And in response to that, so I'm just going to go through some of what was said last week when the Conservatives announced this. They said, after years of mismanagement, British Columbians are stuck with a broken system. So he said that anyone with life-altering injuries due to an accident would have the right to representation and the ability to fight for the support that they need. And meanwhile, the BC NDP, who did bring in the no-fault insurance, said the announcement from Rustad would cost British Columbians more. Bringing costly lawyers back into the process would force people to battle in court and increase rates by $500 a year or more. So that was the response from the NDP to that announcement. Carol, it sounds like you are a proponent of that. So will you be looking for a back and forth on ICBC tonight then?
I will, and just from what the information you've given me, the NDP has lost me.
Carol, thank you so much for starting us off. Good to hear from you.
Thank you.
That's Carol joining us at Salmon Arm. And Cam is on the line at Cobble Hill. Hi there, Cam.
Hello. Hello, yes. One thing that's never brought up, I've never heard anybody talk about this stupid time change. Get a
Daylight saving.
The heck with the Americans. Just drop the boom on, and I'm tired of the time change.
Is that a voting issue for you?
It is. It should be.
Why?
Because it costs people their lives. It costs people their lives. People die because of this stupid thing every year, changing back and forth, like heart attacks and car accidents and everything. Get it one way and the heck with it. The heck with the waiting for California and everybody else.
Right. Cam, thank you very much. So the health impacts of daylight saving time and changing the time. I'm trying to go back. So there had been this promise, right, that this would be the last year we have daylight saving, and then this is the last year, and then a survey of British Columbians. So that hasn't transpired. Apparently, waiting for other West Coast jurisdictions like California, as Cam said. I have received a couple of emails on that, in fact, but you've heard a range of issues there, right? One ICBC, very serious, of course. One that I'm sure Cam would argue is serious. curious is the daylight saving time. How do these resonate with the public, do you think?
It's a good question. I think these are examples of the hard work that these leaders have in trying to address specific concerns that span the entire province and go in many different directions. And so Carol's story illustrates the ways in which the reforms brought in by the NDP, while they were successful in bringing down costs in the aggregate, have led to some specific situations that are not resolved. And so I think the messaging that we hear from the BC Conservatives again and again tries to take advantage of that, trying to say the NDP is busy putting together big systems to try to deal with these large problems, but they are losing sight of you and trying to communicate that much more individualistic message, if you like. And I think that is why we hear that message on ICBC from the Conservatives, saying we are going to give you the chance to take care of yourself rather than having a state or province-wide solution that is meant to bring down costs in the aggregate, but may not work for all people.
And this is essentially, people are voting as well on what the record is of the NDP government. So what does and what measures and policies they have brought in? We heard in the news about mandatory treatment and the BC Conservatives' plan for recovery from addiction. So what does David Eby need to do then? What is his job when it comes to defending their policies, and perhaps in some cases having changed their mind on the carbon tax and things like that? But what is his biggest job as the incumbent?
Yeah, it's a good question again, and it is a difficult job for Mr. Eby, because in some ways he is and is not the incumbent. He is the incumbent. He is the premier today, but he has taken the party in the province in a new direction on a number of important files, above all housing, and so the NDP is building a campaign around the idea that over the long term, these changes on housing and some changes on healthcare, building new schools for medical professionals, these sorts of things, will address the concerns of British Columbians. But these are concerns that have gotten worse over the 7 years that the NDP have been in office. And so he is stuck trying to defend a record while also defend a set of changes that have not had a chance to take effect. And all the while telling British Columbians, asking them to trust him as a leader, although this is his first go around, and that he is going to maintain continuity with that past record of Mr. Horgan, his predecessor, but take the province in new directions amid all this frustration. That's a lot of circles to square.
We'll take you through John Rustad and Sonia First in a moment, but let's take another call here, asking you, what will you be watching for in tonight's debate? Are you still undecided at this point? And what issue or policy would sway your vote? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can just hit pound 690 on your phone as well. Email is bctoday@cbc.ca. My guest is UBC political scientist Stuart Prest. Let's take a call from Leslie at Pender Island. Hi, Leslie. Thanks for calling in.
Hi, thank you.
What are you looking for tonight?
Well, I want to hear what the
Hi, Leslie. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
We had some trouble there. Would you mind just starting off? You wanted to say that you want to hear tonight.
I want to hear the answer to the question, and I know already what the Greens have to say about this, but the Conservatives and the NDP on what will they do if they come to power to solve the problem of 6 or 7 people dying every single day in this province from the toxic drug supply. Simply that. I've asked the Conservative candidate, but I didn't get a good answer, a clear answer, and so that's what I'd like to know.
Okay. Leslie, and why is that important to you?
Well, I work as an advocate for better drug policy, and I don't know what's going to happen, in the future, in the next few months. And so for us to do our work to save the lives and support the lives of people who use drugs, this will be a really critical point. We don't want people to die. So the party that gives me the best answer as to how they will work to prevent that I will be considering.
Leslie, thank you very much. One of the biggest issues in BC. That's Leslie in Pender Island. really one of the top concerns and ongoing concerns in BC. So that I imagine would come up tonight.
I expect it will. It is something that came up during the previous radio debate that we heard the leaders engage in last week, and there we saw some of the biggest fireworks of that morning. I think there is a real debate between the parties over how to balance the competing needs of treatment, of creating space for individuals to deal with a variety of challenging life situations, and also to maintain a sense of public order. These seem like three things that the leaders are trying to hold on to together in different ways. And so we see Mr. Rustad, for his part, has talked about changing the way in which we use things like safe injection sites, where those who are using drugs are able to come in and access clean medical supplies and a safe space effectively, and wanting to turn those into essentially front doors for treatment options, and to really change the focus from helping people to live with the situations they're in and access care when they want to seek it out, to making this a province focused on provision of care and if necessary moving towards involuntary treatment as well. And that's something that Mr. Eby has in recent weeks opened the door to as well. So we see all the parties moving on these issues in different ways, struggling to balance these competing needs within the province.
And try to distinguish themselves from each other, because, as you said, they seem to be going in the similar direction on things like involuntary treatment. Just to update as well, this morning the BC Conservatives did release a plan they call BC Recovers on the opioid crisis, and as they announced, it would. They call it harm reduction with accountability. So actually saying overdose prevention sites. As a temporary and emergency measure, some existing overdose prevention sites may be required. But unlike David Eby, we will not hesitate to shut down any site that refuses to abide by strict codes of conduct. And as Stuart Prest alluded to, they say they would make every safe consumption site a meaningful gateway to treatment. They also talk about treatment and recovery, talking about cutting wait times for voluntary addiction treatment, removing financial barriers to detox and treatment, and safe transition to treatment, not safe supply. Meanwhile, the BC NDP has said that they would establish a $50 million fund for mental health care, plans to build another Redfish Healing Center and a new treatment center specifically for construction workers, and treatment for parents going through addiction recovery, and for people with brain injuries as well. And EB's government did recriminalize the use of hard drugs in public spaces in April, a year after that pilot project. So that's what we have so far on them. And as you mentioned, the BC Green Party, they are in support of safer supply. And they, as announced in their platform last week, said they would like to continue with safe supply. Okay, let's take another call here, asking you again what you're looking for from the party leaders tonight at the BC televised election debate, 6:30 p.m. You can watch it on all CBC platforms, CBC television, listen to it on radio, watch on TikTok, on YouTube, and you can get updates on our website too, cbc.ca/BC. But we're asking you right now, what are you going to be looking for? Are you still undecided? And what are the issues that could sway your vote? 1-800-825-5950. Rick is calling us from Whistler. Hi, Rick.
Yeah, I'm actually Squamish, but that's okay.
You're in Squamish, okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I've called before. There was a news story yesterday. I don't know if you guys ran the story on CBC, but there was an old man, 95 years old, and he was removed from his old age home because he had no more money. And now he's in a hospital, which, believe it or not, costs more money than getting him housing. This is our sad situation. Housing is so important, and it's not just the middle class at $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. It's people $24,000 and less. Mm-hmm. We need affordable income type housing where it's 1/3 of your income. Believe it or not, it will save lives. Your opioid problem. A lot of people on those streets are homeless, and if they had a home, their life changes. So we can make changes there. We can make changes in society where housing isn't as expensive as it is now, where this disposable income would be used to help society. And in the long run, our economy would be better if people didn't have to pay 90% of their money on rent. So I'm on one of those people. I'm out of my place as of November 1st. Right now, I have nowhere to go.
What's
And I'm
one
gonna
thing
be
you'd like
honest
to
with
hear?
you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
I'm not living on the street, and I'm not living in a shelter. I'd rather be locked up or in a hospital. So that's what I have to do. That's what I'll do. Obviously, I'm not going to hurt myself. I'm not suicidal. I'm not on drugs. I'm not a drinker. I'm not on any kind of medication. But I'm very depressed about what's happening, especially that old man. That hurt me so much to see that, and to see him saying that heaven is his only option, whatever heaven is. You know, I'm almost crying now just thinking about it. If I had a place right now, I'd give it to him. That's how much it hurt me. This should not happen in our society. We have to change it, and we got to start changing it now, or we're not going to have a future, because there'll be nobody living anywhere. Because you have to be $5,000-6,000 a month to live anywhere. That's what my town's like right now. We have to change our way of thinking. All the parties. The only one I've heard that really say anything that logical about housing was the Green Party. I've always been an NDP here myself. My dad was, my mom was. I've always voted NDP federally and provincially. But right now, I don't know who to vote for. I'd like to vote for Green, and hopefully they're minority, and maybe we can get some of these issues done, because the other two parties are not talking about that. I'm just telling you, housing is our major, and it's better than putting people in jail. It's better than putting people in hospitals. We save money for the taxpayer, and in the long run, our economy does well if your rent isn't 90% of your income. Okay, so that's all I want to say. I'm just looking for them to really discuss housing for the, we'll call it poor people, anybody $24,000 or even $30,000 if you're a family. If that's all you make a year, you can't afford to live anywhere. If you have two kids, your rent's $3,000-4,000 a month. So we've got to do something. We can't just keep talking about it. We've got to do it. And then our society will be better. And I'll feel better about being here.
Rick.
Because right now, it's not very nice. It's, I feel like swearing almost, but I don't want to swear.
I'm so glad you called back, Rick. Thank you very much. Wow, he's laid out the case there, his personal story. We're going to go back to Stuart Prest in just a moment. And again, BC's three main party leaders will face off in a televised debate tonight. The NDP's David Eby, Conservatives' John Rustad, and Greens' Sonia Furstenau will all take part. It is being organized by the BC Broadcast Consortium and will run from 6:30 p.m. until 8 Pacific. Now, CBC Kelowna asked people around town about what they'll be watching for and some of their key issues.
I don't want to listen to what they got to say. I know what they got. Anybody can say what they want before the election. I'd rather watch the ball game.
Have you already made your decision for the election?
Yes, I'll definitely be voting Conservative.
I don't vote for a party. I vote for who I think is the best candidate in my area.
What issues are important for you?
Homelessness, school support, childcare.
Climate, for sure. Climate and environment and the housing crisis.
There's a big homeless population in Burton, and just like Kelowna has too, it'd be nice to see more supportive housing coming and affordable housing.
Now, the debate tonight is being moderated by Angus Reid Institute President Shachi Kurl. You can follow it right here on CBC Radio and CBC Television, as well as YouTube, TikTok, CBC Gem, and our 24/7 streaming channel, CBC News BC. And coming up, yes. And coming up after the news break, we'll go back to political scientist Stuart Prest and just talk about what the other two leaders of the major parties in BC, Sonia Furstenau and John Rustad, need to do in tonight's election debate to stand out and win your vote. So we'll wrap things up in our discussion around the election debate and what you're looking for. And then we'll talk about disability issues and ask you what are the issues that you think have not been highlighted enough and need to be paid attention to in this election campaign. That's coming up after the CBC News Update. And here's Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. BC political leaders are condemning what they describe as hateful rhetoric after a speaker at a pro-Palestinian rally told the crowd that, quote, "We are Hezbollah and we are Hamas." In videos circulating online, a masked speaker can be seen addressing protesters at the Vancouver Art Gallery at a rally last night, marking the one-year anniversary of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. NDP leader David Eby says such hateful rhetoric is wrong and has no place in BC. BC Conservative leader John Rustad says anyone who's chanting such messages should not be welcome in Canada. Abbotsford police are investigating the death of a pedestrian this morning. Police say a 60-year-old woman was struck by a car just after 6 o'clock and did not survive. And a teenager from Fernie who had collaborated with the Grammy-winning band Flaming Lips has died. Nell Smith was 17. Smith's family posted on social media that their talented, feisty, unique, and beautiful daughter was cruelly taken from them. And now the forecast on the North Coast. Showers this afternoon with a risk of thunderstorms and a high of 11. Highs to 13 with showers and strong winds in the Peace. In the central interior, a high of 12 and windy with a chance of showers and a bit of sunshine. Highs up to 21 and mainly sunny in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, mainly cloudy with a high of 17. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and the Fraser Valley, showers in some areas this afternoon with highs around 14. That's your CBC News Update from Vancouver.
Thank you very much, Rob.
You're welcome.
Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. And we have some emails now on what you are looking for in tonight's debate. And Marie-Eve writes, one thing I hope to hear tonight is John Rustad saying it was a mistake to promise to bring back harmful single-use plastic. So this is something that was announced a couple of days ago. And Marie-Eve writes, I sincerely hope people will not vote for his party, which will not be me, will demand that people who will vote for his party will demand that Conservatives cancel this unthinkable promise to reverse the progress that has been made in reducing plastic pollution, promise made in the name of convenience, comfort, and laziness we humans have grown accustomed to. Christina from Surrey writes, I never voted Conservative and am still very hesitant to do so. However, the NDP has failed to keep most of the promises they made 7 years ago. And unless I hear from David Eby what the NDP has done wrong and how they will fix it, I cannot give them my vote again. We do not need any more promises, but honesty. Anne writes from Nelson, I've already decided which party to vote for. It's the Green Party. It's the only party that gives me hope that we may have a world left for our future generations to live in. Marjorie writes, in response to our call about ICBC, Canada has an excellent health insurance plan. Oh, pardon me, this is just about health insurance, rather. Marjorie writes, Canada has an excellent health insurance plan. Unfortunately, this works only for those who have doctors. BC needs to revamp healthcare, build clinics with a variety of medical disciplines, and supply staff to do the paperwork, help doctors to do what we're trained to do, which is treat people. Thanks, Marjorie, for your emails. bctoday@cbc.ca. This is BC Today here on CBC. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks so much for joining us. And we've been asking you what you're looking for in tonight's provincial election debate. And Stuart Prest has been my guest, a political science at UBC, a political scientist at UBC. And we have been discussing what the leaders themselves need to do. We talked about David Eby, what the job is before him. What do you think is the job for John Rustad tonight?
Mr. Rustad has to find ways to continue to build on the remarkable momentum that the BC Conservatives have enjoyed to this point. This was a party, if we go back a few weeks ago, they leapt into this clear second place without a rival in BC United, changing the race. If we go back a little bit further, this was a party that was really on the fringes of BC politics. And so it's been a meteoric rise for this party. There's no denying that. And I think Mr. Rustad now has to find ways to continue that while also trying to effectively introduce himself to the province more broadly as the leader of this new political movement, and to make the case that both the NDP is failing British Columbians, and I think that's a case they've been relentlessly making for some time now, but also build the case that he has an idea about how to move the province forward, that it's not just attack and criticism, but it's actually an idea about how to improve the lives of British Columbians and deal with these thorny problems that have been around for quite some time with regard to housing, access to healthcare, and so on.
And what about Sonia Furstenau?
I think Ms. Furstenau, she is actually the veteran of this group. She is the only one of the three leaders who has been on this debate stage previously. So while she has to always reintroduce herself to voters, I think in this case, it's more making a case that in a close, effectively two-party race, that there is still a place for the Green Party as a place for people to put their votes if they are dissatisfied with either of these other two options, and to make the case that the Greens continue to have relevance. And I think that has been an uphill climb in this election, given the stakes involved and the extent to which it seems like a vote for either one of the two leading parties could decide the race.
Stuart Prest, we will watch tonight and see what comes of it. Good to have you with us.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much, Stuart Prest, political scientist at UBC. It is now 12:36 Pacific time. This is BC Today. Now, 20% of British Columbians between 15 and 64 years old lives with a disability. So what are the disability issues that need attention in this provincial election? I'd like to hear from you. Our numbers again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. My guest is Michelle Hewitt, Chair of Disability Without Poverty. Good afternoon.
Hi, Michelle. Good afternoon. Good to talk to you again.
Good to have you back. In this election, what do you see as the biggest issues faced by people with disabilities?
Poverty. Obviously, it's something that we find that the disability rate for disability assistance in BC is below what we call the deep poverty line, at just over $1,400 a month. So one of my main concerns is, you said that 20% of people aged 15 to 64 are disabled. 27% of people in Canada are disabled. And obviously, once we get over the age of 65, we tend to accrue some more disabilities. So a lot of our seniors are disabled, which accounts for that rise in possibility. When you were talking, in your previous half hour about what we want to hear in the debate tonight, I want to hear the leaders talk about the province's disabled people. I looked at each of the platforms, on the BC Conservatives are kind of putting their platform out in a non-traditional way. It's a bit piecemeal. You mentioned to a previous caller that the piece that had come out today on addiction issues and so on. So there isn't like a PDF, one document.
Right, the platform is yet to be released, right?
Yeah, it's kind of, but you can find lots of different pieces. I've searched every piece and I found the mention of disability or, words related to disability once. Search the NDP platform, it's there 6 times. Search the Green platform, it's there 42 times, a whole section on accessibility and disability. So I want the leaders to see disabled people as a strong part of BC life, of people that shouldn't be seen in isolation. And I want to hear them talking about our issues. When we talk about housing, the housing stock that's accessible in BC is really low. So whenever every issue has a disability lens to it.
And I appreciate your having gone through those platforms or the promises that have been made. And when it comes to the Conservatives, I think part of what they talked about was expanding or improving Handy Dart service. They talked about increasing the benefits for renovating your accommodations, for example, things like that.
So they talked about the Handy Dart service for seniors, right? Come on, disabled people, those 20% of the population aged 15 to 64, we're not seniors. We are young, vibrant, a full part of society that want to work and volunteer and socialize. Let's not have it just in the seniors part of the platform. Let's see us as people that need to be out there in life. So, and sorry to cut you off. And yes, they did talk about the home, renovation, increasing the renovation credit, but that only works if you own a home or are able to renovate a home. And many people living in poverty, that's just not the case.
Yes, going through the wording in their announcement is double the home renovation tax credit for seniors and persons with disabilities to help them stay in the homes they love. And the transportation handy dart was for what the headline is, transportation for seniors. What is it about, let's talk about the NDP platform now as well. What is it that stands out for you, if anything?
So a really important announcement that the NDP made not long before the writ was dropped, that we have this federal benefit that's going to start being paid out next year that we've talked about on here before, called the Canada Disability Benefit.
Yes.
And a really important part is that the province does not claw any of it back. And the NDP government made that promise, and the Greens have made that promise as well. And there isn't anything yet from the Conservatives, but I would hope to hear from that from them as well. It's really important. As I said, the amount that disabled people who receive disability assistance get is below what we call the deep poverty line. The poverty line in BC is roughly $2,300, and as I said, they get over just between $1,400 and $1,500. Massive, massive gap. And this new benefit is only $200, so don't take any of it away. So that to me is really important, that they've put that, continued commitment right there in their platform. The other thing that I see is adjusting the spousal rule to help lift more people out of poverty. So within the disability community, we call this the right to love. So often, if you are, you're disabled and you want to live with your partner, putting your two incomes together can create such a rise in levels that it means that you lose your own benefits, and you often lose the services that go along with them. And it means then that you don't have any independent funds of your own. So if unfortunately you're in an abusive relationship, getting out is very difficult because you have no finance of your own. But we all deserve the dignity and autonomy that comes with having our own money. And so I'm very happy to see that part, that the spousal rule. And if the NDP do form the next government, we will definitely be following up with that with them hard and fast, because that is something we've had as a priority for a long time.
My guest is Michelle Hewitt, Chair of Disability Without Poverty, and we are asking you, what are the disability issues that need to be highlighted in this provincial election? I'd love to hear from you. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And David is joining us from Coquitlam. Hi there, David. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. It's an important subject. I'm worked over 50 years in construction, and through no fault of my own, I find myself a person with disabilities, and I applied for the PWD from the provincial government, and I get that, and I also took my Canada pension early, and they claw back that number of my Canada pension off my PWD, dollar for dollar. And that brings me down to where I have about 90% of my income now goes for my accommodation, so I'm not homeless for my rent. And
90%.
Yes, and I can't apply for the SAFER program because you can't apply for the SAFER program if you're on PWD. So I can't get a top up on that aspect of it. Right? So it doesn't work.
Michelle Hewitt, did you want to respond to that? Well,
And
I
I
find.
also want to
Sorry,
say
David,
another thing.
continue.
go ahead, David. My apologies.
I also want to point out that being on a PWD, I'm allowed to work for $1,500 per calendar year without deductions. But because I'm disabled and I'm unable to do my construction job, or other people won't hire me because of my disability, that $1,500 a year or $15,000 a year is totally useless to me. Okay,
It's circular. It just reinforces it that you can't increase your income.
Yeah, no, I can't because they dollar for dollar they take it off my PWD and I don't get ahead. I'm still stuck at $1,400 a month, and then 90% goes for my rent and my bills, and I'm only left with $200 a month for myself, and that's why I have to go to the food bank.
What do you want to see then? What is there an action specifically that you'd like to see in this election?
Well, that they stop the clawback, on the PWD, and let me at least get, maybe $2,000 a month, and then, I'm and the SAFER program, if they could enact that, so you can, even if you're on PWD, you can still access that.
Yeah.
Right.
David, really good to hear from you. Thank you so much for raising these issues.
Yes, it's important. I've been trying to get a hold of people to let them know, because you can't access SAFER, even though they say, well, you can get SAFER, but you can't get it if you're on PWD.
Expansion of the SAFER program. Thank you, David, very much for that, and I wish you well. Yes, Michelle Hewitt. So two things there was the clawback from the CPP on the PWD. You were talking about clawbacks earlier on the Canada Disability Benefit.
Yeah, so we've got an agreement, no clawbacks on this new benefit. Well, let's expand that to other benefits. Why should we be clawing back money from people while they are below the deep poverty line? If we raise that limit to the poverty line to $2,300, David's earned that money. He's earned his CPP from working, as he said, in construction for many, many years. That's his money. Why are we taking it away from him? And if he had the money up to the poverty line, if that other benefit, the federal benefit, wasn't clawed back, just think about the increasing quality to his life. So therefore, he wouldn't be struggling to pay his rent and only having 10% of his income left. He would probably eat healthier, so therefore he wouldn't be putting any strain on the health system. He, as he said, he can't work in construction, but he may be able to contribute to our society in other ways once he has had this lifted off him. We hear people all the time telling us that they want to thrive, not just survive. So I strongly agree with everything that David was saying about how, I find it insidious that we claw back money from people and keep them so far below the poverty line.
We have another caller now in Mission, and Brandy is on the line. Hi, Brandy. Thanks so much for waiting.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my call. I have a few issues actually to talk about. Is that I was going to school, and I'm a First Nations woman, and raised in foster care, and so what happened was I had so that was and then in poverty before that, so I had a lot of addiction issues. And so I got clean and sober, and 20 years ago, and I went back to school. So going back to school, I got this really big student loan, and I've got like 1 year left to do my PhD. So I continue to go to school and, get a better life for myself. And then I got a chronic, like a chronic pain, and I've got scoliosis and degenerative disc disease in my spine. So I've been jumping through all these hoops just to get back surgery. And so right now, like, I just live for where to go to the pain management clinic, and I get weekly shots. And so I'm dealing with all these, and I'm 56 years old, so I'm dealing with all these pain issues, but I've got 1 year left to do my PhD. But then I got cut off from student loans, so I wasn't able to huge debt, and I'm like First Nations, so like things like like a lot of First Nations communities and people are already dealing with a lot of issues. So so I had to go back to work, and
you're not able to go back to school, finish that year.
Yeah, so I'm not able to go back to school to finish my.
And why were you cut off the student loan?
Because it only goes so many years.
I see.
You can only get it for so many years.
Okay, so just okay.
So I've only got 1 year left.
Yeah.
So I'm not able to finish my PhD also, and I've also, and now I'm dealing with this chronic pain, and I haven't even been able to finish doing the paperwork to get on disability.
So as you say, you've been jumping through hoops, right? That was to get the treatment, and now as well to get disability. Brandy, thank you very much for sharing that. Education, access to education. What are the barriers for people with disabilities, Michelle?
Hey, yeah, I really feel for her. I'm just finishing my PhD dissertation, and if I was, that close to the end, I just, somebody who also lives with chronic pain. Oh, Brandy, I feel for you so much. I think, it's often, I think when Brandy said, she's running out of years of student loans and that sort of thing, often we find that disability isn't taken into consideration with the amount of extra time it takes us to do things. And one of the other things that she mentioned was, just being able to find the strength to fill in the forms, to apply for various, assistance payments and that sort of thing. And we find that a lot with people with disabilities, that we just, it sounds easy. If you're not disabled, if you don't have chronic pain, well, just fill the form in. Well, it's not. You can get up out in the morning with every intention that that's what you're going to do today, and then your body just tells you no, that's not going to happen. We need more navigators to help disabled people, right? There are excellent nonprofits, like the ABC and so on, that support people in doing this.
Disability Alliance, okay.
Disability Alliance BC, sorry, the acronym. But they are rushed off their feet with there's tsunami of people that need help, and as we have new federal benefits that require things like the disability tax credit. And, we had a previous caller that talked about doctors want to be doctors and not filling forms in. So now more of those hoops are being required for people to jump through that are creating backlogs in the system, are creating pressures for our nonprofits who can't get to assist the people that really need their assistance because there's just such a flood of people. And I feel like we're just creating this, this pressure cooker that people have nowhere to go, but a very different topic. But instead we have, a federal government that offers us medical assistance in dying. And that is something you hear regularly in our disability community. So what do I want to hear tonight? I want to hear compassion to disabled people, to understanding who we are in the 20% of this population, how isolated and how difficult our lives can be, and what are they going to do to help us thrive, and so that we can be everything that we want to be and that the province wants us to be, so we can give back to the province.
On that note, we have an email from Ross who writes, my sister lived with severe physical disabilities. I have several friends and clients with person with disability status. I'm also a registered clinical counselor. Funding is a huge issue. When abnormal muscle tightness or spasticity is an issue, specialty physio is crucial to ongoing functioning, but it's not covered. When repeated 30-day migraines are an issue, migraine medication is not covered except by special authority and can be or is often withdrawn after some months. Much is covered, but so much that is essential is not covered at all. And the monthly PWD payments equals 1/3 of my future pension. It is not livable. The measure of our culture is in how we care for one another. We are not caring enough for our brothers and sisters with disabilities. Ross, thank you very much for your email, and we'll continue to take your emails as well on this issue. What are the disability issues that you think need to be highlighted in this election? BC Today at cbc.ca. Michelle Hewitt, always good to speak with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Speak to you again sometime soon.
You take care. Michelle Hewitt is chair of Disability Without Poverty. This is BC Today. We have an email from Janet as well, who writes, let's not forget people with disabilities includes those with developmental disabilities, those who need support in almost every aspect of their lives. A critical issue facing adults as they age is supportive housing. Many developmentally disabled people cannot live independently, but require in-home support. There is a significant lack of supportive housing in our region of Greater Vancouver. Thank you for that email as well, Janet. That's Janet emailing us at bctoday@cbc.ca. We'll cover, of course, the election debate tomorrow on the program.